We're being used to crack the door open for private religious education, and that's not what we're being taxed for in this country.
So on your ballot next month, you'll notice the controversial Proposition 305 talking about expanding school vouchers. And head of the education community is watching this one closely.
Well, that's right, Brandon. The wording on the ballot is a little bit tricky. These signs can be confusing. Take this one, for example, here. This sign calls for a yes vote on Proposition 305. You see, it's big, it's red, it's got the hashtag down here, yes for Ed. It certainly looks like something the Red for Ed movement put out, but to clarify for you, it is not. The Red for Ed movement, Save Our Schools organization, and others are against Proposition 305. These are their bright yellow signs asking you to vote no on the proposition. It could have a big impact on funding for the 95% of Arizona kids who go to public schools.
A lot of people are waking up to these issues.
They are the images you cannot ignore.
I've never seen a crowd this large in downtown Phoenix.
This is literally the future of our state.
Front and center this year, education. Arguably the most important issue facing our state.
These are my kids. If I'm not fighting for them, nobody else is.
Susan Edwards is fighting because the battle over her kids' schooling is on the ballot with Prop 305.
If you're not going to advocate for yourself and your kids, then you're going to be at the back of the line.
Edwards' family is unique. She and her husband Eric have 4 boys, each with different academic abilities.
I'm Thomas and I'm 16.
I'm Braden, I am 15.
My name is Jared and I am 13 years old.
I'm Evan and I'm 12 years old.
Are you worried about them?
Very worried about them.
Thomas goes to a regular high school. Braden and Jared are both autistic and go to a private school for an education they can't get in public school. Evan is gifted and attends a charter.
It's a juggle. It's a juggle.
Both Braden and Jared take advantage of the state's voucher program to afford their specialized education.
The cost of tuition is about $25,000 apiece.
For the Edwards family, the benefits are huge. In 2009, vouchers were ruled unconstitutional because tax dollars cannot go directly to private and religious schools. So lawmakers passed a workaround. They renamed vouchers Empowerment Scholarship Accounts, or ESAs, and they gave the tax dollars to parents, empowering them with choice to then pay the private schools. Edwards wants to protect the ESA program for the small group it was intended for.
We're being used for something that is not the purpose of the ESA.
Last year, it served about 5,000 students who qualify under a handful of conditions. Nearly 60% are special needs. 13% are kids from military families. 11% are students moving from D or F-rated schools, and the remainder goes to adopted and foster kids, students on reservations, siblings, and the deaf and the blind. Edwards does not want this program expanded to every child in the state, where their special class no longer has priority, giving us this analogy.
ESA is the chair that a short person in the back of a concert hall will stand on. If you have the expansion, what that is everybody else getting up and standing on their chairs too. And what that does is it puts the special ed kids right back where they started.
For the 5,000 students who used ESAs last year, it cost $59 million. Edwards believes if the program expands to all students, millions more dollars would be drained from public education funding, and she fears the fallout could put the entire ESA program in jeopardy. The wording of Proposition 305 is tricky.
But it's very easily in the voter's mind to become confused that a yes is a no and a no is a yes.
Basically, a no vote means no on the expansion. It overturns the new state law expanding the current voucher program, making it available to any child, special circumstances or not. People for Prop 305's voucher expansion say this is about school choice.
Shouldn't I be able to free to take my child where I want them to go to school, essentially is the argument.
Proponents claim it will bring competition in schools, forcing better outcomes.
If the private schools are educating children better, then it challenges traditional public education and charter schools to be able to keep up in that marketplace, and then raises their level of education in the classroom.
Opponents of Prop 305 disagree, saying parents already have a choice.
Parents choosing private education is not a problem, but parents choosing private education that is funded by tax dollars that then we don't get to know what we're getting for that tax money. Did they even use the money in a school, or did they cash it in at Walmart, which has happened with the ESA program?
Accountability just one issue. Don Penich-Thacker is one of the founders of Save Our Schools, the grassroots organization against the voucher expansion lawmakers narrowly passed last year.
Here in Arizona, our public schools are already starving. We have classrooms with no teacher. We have the lowest paid teachers in the country. So why are we hurting a system that needs more support, not less?
Save Our Schools saw Red for Ed rise up, as more Arizonans realized education was in crisis, forcing the legislature and governor to do something and give teachers a raise. And that new money will leave public education if more kids get ESAs.
But every dollar that we pour into the public education budget, which Governor Ducey did this spring, is getting siphoned out by these voucher programs.
You suck all that money out, and what you've got left are the have-nots. And you know what? They're already disadvantaged, and now they're winding up with less money, less of everything.
So the voucher program is here. It will stay for the special groups I mentioned. It's the expansion to everybody else that is on the ballot in November. And what's interesting here, the voices who have been behind this voucher expansion and for it this whole time, right now they've been silent.
So why is that? Why would you pass up a good opportunity for TV time, which, by the way, is very hard to come by, but an opportunity for them in your story to at least make their case?
One of the reasons could be that this particular law, this expansion law, is capped at 30,000 kids. So by their own statements, a couple of these groups won't be too disappointed if Proposition 305 goes down, because ultimately they want no caps at all, and they want to see these ESAs be available to all 1 million Arizona students.
It'll be interesting. It's so weird sometimes how they really make it so confusing when we get our voter pamphlets, that you were saying a yes really means a no and a no really means a yes on this.
A no means no to the expansion.
Correct.
A yes will mean yes for the expansion. If you can remember it, and that's
that
easier
way it's
for
a lot
you, it kind
easier.
of keeps it in mind. So wherever you stand.
Solid